The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, the country's most recent egg shipment came from the Dominican Republic. Many of you guessed this. And so the question tonight, what was the process in approving its entry into the Bahamas? We get to the bottom of it for you this evening. Also, it is International Women's Day. In fact, it's an entire month of International Women's Day observances. We speak with two leading women on the theme and the focus in the Bahamas this year. And a bit later, he is called the Compost King. We speak with Nicholas Fox. It's all straight ahead for you this evening. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, we know the move to try and bring down the cost of living. In fact, with an egg shortage that's plaguing the United States and other nations, the Bahamas, through the Bahamas Trade Commission, is trying to move directly to suppliers to be able to cut out the middleman. I think that attempt happened earlier this week when one of the leading grocers here in the nation brought about a number of eggs, brand new, unmarked, on the market, and sold eggs for the first time in many months for under $5. Oh, but that wasn't the best thing for you all. You all got very nervous and started doing your research and discovered that the Dominican Republic, where a lot of eggs are exported from, is not quite meeting international standards. Or are they? Well, we're going to talk about that this evening. So welcome to Beyond the Headlines, Senator Barry Griffin, who is chairman of the Bahamas Trade Commission. Very happy to have him here so that he can really answer some questions. And then, of course, we have Kerry Howells, who is COO of CLX Logistics Bahamas. I think his company played a key role in that egg shipment and will continue to do so as the next shipment is set for sometime around March 18th. And so we're going to get into the discussion this evening. Gentlemen, good evening to you. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good evening. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
It's good to have you here. Now, gentlemen, so much has been going on since I think Monday when one of the leading grocers, shall not call the name, even though I interviewed the president of that organization on this show on Monday, and I even had my own dozen of eggs from their store in this container unmarked. We all saw it, we know it. But the question that so many Bahamians had, even though I'll tell you this, they ran to the store, they sold out. But people want to know truly, though, the quality and safety of the eggs. It has been since discovered that the eggs hailed from the Dominican Republic. So what is the real story? Because we've been seeing so much that the Turks and Caicos government confiscated eggs from the Dominican Republic, about 25,000 of them, because they were coming into the country illegally. But people went further and took a look at the fact that Dominican Republic has its own share of issues when it comes to livestock and I guess livestock farming, that they had questions about the safety of these eggs. What can you say this evening to the Bahamian people?
So thank you, Shanique, for having me on the show this evening. But before we get into that, I wanted to go back to maybe about a week ago or so when we were on the show and we spoke about the government's National Trade Diversification Program. And so I just wanted to say this is just but one example of trade diversification in action, where we're promoting Bahamian companies to go directly to the source and the manufacturer for eggs. As you would know, and as many Bahamians already know, countries in the world specialize in particular products. And so we specialize in tourism and financial services. You have many countries in Latin America and the Caribbean that specialize in agriculture. They grow fruits, vegetables, livestock, poultry. And the Dominican Republic, one of our fellow countries in the Caribbean, they specialize in agriculture. And so many of the fresh fruit juices that you already have here in the Bahamas comes from the Dominican Republic. They sell kidney beans, they sell livestock, as you would have noted. And so the Dominican Republic is really one of the big exporters in our region. And so we're not.
So they also export. They're also known for exporting eggs.
Correct. We're not the first country to receive eggs from the Dominican Republic. In fact, I did some research. The Bahamas would have exported about $200,000 worth of Dominican eggs in 2022 and 2023. And so it wouldn't be the first time we would have ever received a shipment of eggs from the Dominican Republic. And so I just wanted to say that this is part of
So just to confirm, the recent explosion of eggs did come from Dominican Republic.
So I have been advised that the shipment of eggs that you speak of, the origin is the Dominican Republic.
Are they safe? And Carrie, you can jump in and you both, because we want to get to the bottom of this. I've been trying all week to understand the origin of those eggs in those unmarked containers and that are very pristine and white. Are they safe?
Shanique, yes, they are. The Dominican Republic has very strict guidelines for exports, as manufacturing is a huge industry down there. The same way that we as Bahamians take tourism very seriously is the same way that they take their manufacturing industry. In just the export of the Dominican Republic, what I've experienced is that there's so many different procedures before you actually could even get the products out of that country. For example, before you could even load containers with food products, the container has to be tested for contamination. I haven't seen that in many. The container itself, an empty container, has to be tested for contamination. I don't see that even when we ship out of the United States. So when this container is tested first, then it can be taken to the packing house. When it gets to the packing house, then their Ministry of Agriculture as well as Customs have to be present on site when these items are loaded to ensure quality control, and they inspect them once they are loaded. Now, this part was kind of surprising to me. Once it's loaded at the packing house, it's then taken to another government customs facility where it's then transferred into their custody, where they do further inspections to ensure that the products are actually A-grade products, because they only export A-grade products. They have two classifications.
The instance of eggs that I am understanding is a most delicate product, really, from farming them, if that's a right term to use as it relates to eggs, but from farming them all the way to them getting to market. Like, I understand it's extremely delicate and a lot of attention is paid. You're saying this is the level of attention they pay to their eggs that are to be exported.
Correct. They pay extreme attention, and then also you have to have all documentation in place, all the relevant certificates, approvals, not only from your country, not only from their country of origin, but also from every ministry in that country where those eggs would have had to pass through. So whether it is the Ministry of Agriculture, whether it is Customs, all of these have to be inspected, and they have to provide you with documentation that you then have to provide to BAFSA before those could enter into the country. So from the Bahamas government standpoint...
And you're speaking, Carrie, firsthand, because your job and what you did very recently as it relates to the major shipment of egg and those that will continue to come in, you were actually in Dominican Republic, and because the various sort of levels of approval had to be signed off before.
Well, this particular shipment of eggs, the good thing is that the major suppliers, they did all of this by themselves. We had a small role in the supply chain behind it, but we actually work with a Bahamian company. A lot of people don't know this. There's a Bahamian company in the Dominican Republic with expertise in export, but not only that, they're licensed by the Dominican government to export food products out of their country, and it took them a really long time to actually get these certifications. So what we do is for products that are leaving the Dominican Republic, coming to the Bahamas, we physically send representatives down to go and see the farmers, see where these items are produced, see how they're being transported, just to ensure that whatever it is that enters our country is items that we know that we are going to consume ourselves. So the whole entire process of the supply chain, we try to have an eye on it and also make sure that all the documentation is not tampered with in any kind of way, to ensure that the product that we purchase on site is a product that is delivered to us at door.
So then why did the government and the Ministry of Agriculture in Turks and Caicos refuse those eggs from Dominican Republic just late last month, roughly 25,000 eggs?
Well, the thing is that the narrative wasn't properly put out there. It wasn't the fact that they refused them. they attempted to be smuggled into their country. The importer did not do the proper paperwork like any other Bahamian company would do to enter any food product into the Bahamas. They did not provide the sanitary certificates. Those eggs were actually hidden in the back of a 40-foot container. So they were smuggled in the same way that our government would seize or refuse any food product that doesn't fit the criteria or doesn't have the proper documentation during transportation. Is the exact same thing that happened in the Turks and Caicos. It didn't have anything to do with anything else other than the fact that the importer attempted to smuggle those items into the country.
And how about Senator, and also Kerry, you can jump in as well. It's been reported that, listen, Dominican Republic has not declared itself, I'm not sure what this is related to, but HPAI free, or that Dominican Republic has some issues as it relates to declaring itself free of other notifiable diseases like food related, such as the African swine fever and all that stuff. Like, people are saying, listen, if Dominican Republic got all this going on, why are we getting the eggs?
So first of all, I'll take it from the standpoint, Kerry spoke about the very stringent standards that they have in the Dominican Republic, but I'll speak a little bit about the stringent standards that we have here in the Bahamas.
We're interested in knowing that, because BAFSA, for some reason, is very silent. How strict are they?
Well, I mean, BASFA isn't silent. BASFA is a technical organization. So these are the scientists and the very highly technically trained people who protect us. So they are responsible for upholding our standards for any shipment of goods, whether they come from the United States, Canada, Panama, Ghana, Dominican Republic, everywhere. We want to be clear. The Bahamas has one set of standards for the importation of goods into our country, and it doesn't change regardless of whether you get it from the United States or the Dominican Republic. So the
question then, Senator, but I really have to inject right here. BASFA is active and doing its job every day.
BASFA is active and doing its job every day. The Bahamas is one of the countries in the world that has the lowest incidence of reported food contamination in the country. So BASFA has always been doing its job. And in particular, you want to talk about the eggs. These eggs, again, were approved by BASFA to come into the country. But I kind of have to speak about it globally. The same standards that American eggs would have to meet, or any American product would have to meet, are the same standards that any product from the Dominican Republic would have to meet. BASFA and our authorities here are not lowering our standards or changing our standards to import any good from any country. And so if something is going on in the Dominican Republic, that would be caught here, because they would need to provide sanitation certificates, health certificates. Their ministries would need to give approval, because you need to have certificates of origin of the products. And so BASFA verifies all these things before anything is allowed to come off the dock here in the Bahamas. And so, it would not help the government to introduce any food issues in the Bahamas. And so the government, BASFA and Ministry of Agriculture are very particular in making sure that whether we import goods from the US or anywhere else, that they meet the same requirements.
And as you said, which was an excellent point you brought into this discussion, you're saying whether they come from the US,
everywhere,
or Dominican Republic or anywhere else, BASFA kicks in to ensure that every government agency has signed off, and also that it meets our standards here.
Correct. And what's the interesting thing is, one of the reasons that eggs are so expensive in the US now is because the bird flu is ravaging the US. There should actually be concern about eggs coming from the United States. Bird flu isn't ravaging the Dominican Republic, and so we have to be careful of the narratives that we sort of push out of there.
Well, Bahamians run wild with it, because
but I mean, that's just the reality of the situation.
But when they got them, they were like, wait a minute, where these eggs came from, what's happening here? But let's move forward quickly, please. Let's talk about what the Bahamas Trade Commission is doing, whether it's obviously liaising with people like Kerry and his organization, and even grocers and other industries as well, but just to tackle inflation. That's really is what's going on here. The bottom line in trying to ease the burden of inflation, yes?
The reality is,
and in a healthy way.
The cost of living in the Bahamas is astronomical. We continue to be ranked as one of the most expensive countries in the world. And the reality is, we are a heavy import country. We import 90% of everything we use in this country, and 80% of that 90% comes from the United States. One of the ways we are finding to lower the cost of living is to simply lower the cost of purchasing goods. And that means going directly to the sources. Kerry can tell you this because he's on the ground, but many of the products that we import into this country from the United States, they come from third-party countries. Most of the meat we already consume in this country comes from Brazil, but we buy them from American third parties. A lot of things such as tuna, for example, they come from Latin America, packaged by an American company, put an American brand on it, and they sell it to us.
The canned tuna.
The canned tuna. So America doesn't specialize in those products.
We know the food game is an intricate game.
And so that's simply marketing. But what we're saying is that we also want to offer variety. So we're not saying that the brand of American products that you love, that they're not going to be available. They will be there. But for the people who are a little bit more cost conscious, or for people who want variety of options, the options will be there. So if you want to have, your eggs from a particular brand from an American source, you can still have that in every store. However, if someone says, you know what, I don't really want to spend $12 on a carton of eggs, let me try the ones for $5. And if they find that the quality is good, we also want that variety to be there as well. So it's about bringing variety to the Bahamian market. It's about bringing cost competitiveness to the market and lowering the cost of living.
Well, I mean, obviously that is what everyone wants. That's what the fight is in the U.S. right now as well, to bring down the cost of eggs and every other thing, because they too are experiencing historic inflation. I know you addressed the nation earlier today along with Kerry. What did you tell the Bahamian people, whether it's about, listen, while we're looking for cheaper food product or any other product for you to help ease the pinch of inflation, you're doing so responsibly.
So we would have had an address at the Office of the Prime Minister today where we updated the nation on everything that we're doing to lower the cost of living. We spoke about the trade diversification program. We spoke about the impending legislation that would promote competition and stop market abuse by any players. We also spoke about price transparency. But we gave the nation a little tidbit. So I can say this now this evening because we mentioned it much earlier, but the exact same thing that you saw with the eggs, our goal is to repeat that for many products over the next year. And so we have many trade missions planned with various groups of Bahamian businesses. They're going into Panama, going into Ecuador, going into Brazil, going into the Dominican Republic. They are going to the factories themselves. They are going to the farms themselves. They are meeting with the various agencies to have proof from a Bahamian who went there and said, I saw the factory, I saw the product, I'm pleased with the quality, my store wants to import this. And so the idea is that over the coming months, we're gonna have a cheaper supply of canned goods, from tuna to sardine to corned beef, inexpensive supply of chicken, of beef, of pork. The idea is that the most frequently used goods by Bahamians, we want to make sure that we're lowering that cost. Again, Kerry, bringing variety to the market.
Kerry, you're sort of right on the front line of all of this. You have a very keen eye to ensure that the quality of what's coming in is what we're used to and should be even elevated further, yes?
Correct. Well, Shanique, I shop at the same grocery store as every single person listening to us right now. I go to Super Value, I go to the corner marts, I buy these same food for my children as well too. We're not going to source items that we think is an inferior quality to make a quick buck, because we are the consumers ourselves. We are Bahamians. And when we go into these source countries, we are very much strict with them in terms of providing transparency, in terms of the process of you providing these food items, in terms of the paperwork, in terms of the documentation. And believe it or not, having a language barrier with some of these countries has actually been extremely helpful, because we only want to see, this is in English, this is what it is, and they bring the translators, they make sure they translate it. We deal with the government agencies direct. We ensure that all of our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted. And I also have to say, from Bahamian government standpoint as well too, is that they ensure that all of our documentation is valid, is up to date, and that these items can be said that they were inspected and they were sent out of these countries, and they decide ultimately if they will allow these to be in our market and on our shelves. So at the end of the day, we may play an important part by going down there and sourcing them, but the government also holds us to a very strict policy of ensuring that these items and that we are sure that the proper documentation were presented for these items before they are allowed into our country.
That's so assuring. I mean, this is what we want to know. We know in this nation, food quality, food security is important, but food quality and the health of it all is also very important. You know, Senator, you mentioned that there are going to be other trade missions ahead because you're looking to really begin introducing this more cost-effective way of eating and other things in the nation. So this is certainly travel that's worth it, because you know the administration has been hit recently with its travel budget, but this here is necessary travel.
So I'll say two things. A lot of these trade missions don't even include government representatives. So some would include government representatives where we go down with them. But for example, we've already had a trade mission to Brazil. We've met with the Brazilian authorities. And so now we're just facilitating trade missions of groups of private individuals who want to go down. We now have the contacts. We've met them. We can direct them to particular people in particular ministries and agencies. And so as they want to go, we're facilitating. For example, we have a group of businessmen going down to Panama and Ecuador at the end of this month. There will be no government representative on that trip because we've already created those relationships and we can pass that on to the private sector. But I will say this. The approach that we have to this program, what we're calling Affordable Bahamas, is an all-of-government approach. The Ministry of Transport is involved through the running of the port. The Ministry of Agriculture is involved. Various agencies in the Ministry of Economic Affairs is involved. The Trade Commission, Consumer Protection Commission, Consumer Affairs Department. BASFA is also involved. That comes from the Ministry of Agriculture. So this is an all hands on deck. And then as it relates to the travel, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is involved. We're engaging with different countries, different jurisdictions, that some of which we have trade agreements with, some of which we don't have any trade agreements. And so when, government is so-called traveling, we use each and every opportunity to meet directly with the decision makers in these countries to advance our position. They have the expertise in their countries. They can open doors in their countries for us. And so each and every one of those so-called travel, we're using that to benefit the Bahamian people. We're opening the doors literally for a more affordable Bahamas.
Well, that's super. That right there, that affordable Bahamas, that term, the nation, I think, embraces it and anticipates further affordability. And so I thank you both very much for stopping by this evening because I tell you, did you expect the egg controversy to go in the direction it did, or directions it did?
Not necessarily, but we also know that Bahamians want to know a lot of information. They want you to be transparency.
Which is good.
And
transparency
from
is
out
good.
The gate.
It's a good thing,
Yeah.
and we just want the Bahamian public to know and understand that the entire shipping process is a transparent process because you have to move items across borders. Where the source country is transparent there, and the arrival country is also transparent, and the process in between is full transparency.
But I just want to say this before we go so that, those who have some concern can think about it. The exact same people that are approving your egg shipment from the United States are the same people that are approving your egg shipment from the Dominican Republic and elsewhere.
Correct.
Same standards, same people. And so if we can trust them to make sure that we're safe with products from the US, I think we can trust them to make sure that we're safe with products from all over the world.
Correct. The documentation is global. It is certain standards that apply to every country on the planet.
Yes. Gentlemen, thank you both very much. Senator Barry Griffin, Kerry Howells, thank you very, very much. Thank you for bringing much, first of all, ease, Go make your omelet. Try your omelet in the morning, or your boiled egg, or your poached egg, whatever it is you'd like. But I thank you both very much because I tell you a lot, and I love that you both came forward because when people don't have information, they are free to create whatever they want. And that's exactly what they have done for the whole week. And so thank you both once again. When we come back, we are going to shift gears and take a look at International Women's Day. It's an annual event. Well, what's the focus globally, but specifically in the Bahamas this year? This is Beyond the Headlines. We're back right after this.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
work hard to provide for and protect the ones you love. However, life can present unexpected challenges. Who you call in times of need matters. Insurance Management is a Bahamian-owned company that has been serving our community for over 40 years, offering a wide range of coverage for all of your personal, professional, and commercial needs. When life happens, rest easy knowing that our skilled and experienced agents are there for you in your time of need, so that you can get back to what matters most. Insurance Management. Nobody does it better.
What? You don't know what TDC is? Tourism Development Corporation?
You mean the Ministry of Tourism?
No, that ain't the same thing, but the Tourism Development Corporation helps develop and grow Bahamian businesses in the tourism industry. You hear what they say, boy?
Oh, yeah.
Develop and grow. You don't know what all the things saying do?
What does do?
Hey, check the website, boy.
Start your journey to ownership of our #1 industry today. Log on to tdcbahamas.com.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
At the Water and Sewage Corporation, safety and convenience are our top priorities. However, our meter readers face challenges that can make their job difficult. Locked gates to guard dogs sometimes leads to missed readings and estimated bills, which can be frustrating for you and us. That's why we're upgrading to digital meters. They bring safety, accuracy, and convenience to homes across the Bahamas. We can streamline data collection, reduce on-site visits, and provide more accurate bills with no more estimates. Digital meters also help detect leaks early, saving you from costly bills and reducing water waste. Soon, a user-friendly app will let you track your water usage, manage bills, and stay informed, all at your fingertips. Over the next year, we're rolling out digital meters nationwide, transforming how we serve you with a safer and cost-efficient water supply. To learn about our digital meters, visit our website or call us today. And don't forget to update your information at any of our locations.
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
This segment of Beyond the Headlines is brought to you by EV Motors. Drive the future with brand new 2024 electric vehicles. EV Motors, powering your journey.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Well, International Women's Day is this Saturday, March 8th. But of course, as you know, the entire month of March is observed as International Women's Month, where women globally just sort of, pitch all of the activities and the observances around a central theme. In 2025, this year, that theme is Accelerate Action. Well, we're going to find out what it's about, what it means, and it's how it's being expressed here in the Bahamas. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines, Senator Michaela Barnett Ellis and Heather McDonald. Ladies, good evening to both of you. I know that they're here as women and just to talk about it, but they're also members and leading female faces from the Free National Movement. And so welcome to Beyond the Headlines. It's wonderful having you both here this evening.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Good, Heather. I was waiting for you just to say hello. But ladies, it's good to see you both. You know, International Women's Month and Day is become quite significant, a significant observance for women around the world on many different years. There have been so many different focuses. But what does Accelerate Action mean, especially in 2025? So I think Accelerate Action recognizes that we are making movement in terms of gender equality, but we need to move faster. We need to have, we need to accelerate. There needs to be more motion in a forward direction, because I think there are studies that if we continue at the pace that we're going, we're not going to see the gender equality that we hope for a really long time. So Accelerate Action it's all about putting more emphasis in the movement. Let's be more aggressive in this fight.
Heather, how is that looking in the Bahamas, and how is that or lacking in the Bahamas in terms of accelerated action and why it's needed in 2025 now in the Bahamas?
I believe we have a lot of policies in place when it comes to women's rights, and I think that we're moving in the right direction. However, it's far too slow. We've been saying the same thing over and over again for generations from when I was a child. And now as I'm adult, we're having some of the same conversations that I saw when I was a child. And I think talk is cheap. Like we say in the Bahamas, talk is cheap, money is buying land. It's time for us to start delivering on some of the things that we promised women over the years. We want to see fairness. We want to see equality. We want the same benefits that our male counterparts have, because we have some wonderfully educated, amazing, talented women, and we want them to have great opportunities.
What are these opportunities that you speak of, both of you, Senator and Heather, that you speak of when men in the Bahamas would say, man, what these ladies talking about, it's all about them. They're empowered. They are equal to us. They out-earn us. Like, there's so many things you would hear men say, and I've heard them say just on many shows I've hosted, including this one. So they feel like, what else?
Well, I'll tell you what else. For example, we're a part of a wonderful political organization, but one thing I think that we lack is we need more female representation at the position where laws are being created, where policies are created, where we can open doors for other women. We look at our, right now they're debating in the House, and when you look in there, who are the faces that you see in there? We're not seeing ourselves when we look inside Parliament. And that's what I want. I want my younger self, I want my nieces, I want my goddaughters to be able to say, oh, look at all those wonderful educated women in Parliament speaking on my behalf. Even in the cabinet, a lot of times when we have women, they fight hard, they are just as qualified as the men, but when it's time to give these cabinet positions, we're not seeing that visibly across the board. And I'm going to say something a little controversial, and I'm not talking about giving you a little minister of state position or giving you a portfolio. Give them a cabinet post. I would like to see more of that, because I know we have the talent. I know we have the women out there that are ready to work, and I'm just as wonderful as our men, and I'm not doing this to tear down men. I'm just saying, give us our space, give us room. There is enough. I always say this when I speak to my students, there's room on the top of the mountain for all of us. We all could be at the top of the mountain, and we can make that happen.
Senator, your thoughts on this, because I want to dig in further to it, what Heather said, Senator. And what I mean by is, and you're right, Heather, you're absolutely right. But my thing is women, because you're right, this discussion, and especially that line right there, has been debated since I was a reporter in Frontline News. And so the thing about it is, many people have said since then, throughout the Commonwealth, women, for some reason, are not as appealing a candidate. Let's just talk about that, for example, to be elected. They're just as qualified. They may just be appealing and have the wonderful resume, just like their male counterpart. But what is it that women somehow stumble on or lack or doesn't necessarily fully execute to secure the bag when it comes to elections?
I think it's not about women not securing the bag. What I think it is there is a perception often put out by men who don't want to see women progress to be candidates and to have a voice at the table, and even when they get at the table, to be listened to. So there's this messaging that women aren't strong candidates, women aren't fighters, women aren't aggressive, and then there's the flip side that, oh no, she's too aggressive for a woman.
Where a man is seen as strong and
assertive and bold and commanding.
A woman is seen as we know what.
Yes. And so it's also about changing the way people think, because when they look at women in positions of leadership, there's a tint on their glasses. They're not looking at us the same way that they look at men in the same position. And it often means that there is a
uphill battle for women to climb to dispense with that notion of, she is that bad word, or that she is, a monster and aggressive. So we need to, start talking to our children about how leadership is for anybody.
Yeah. You mentioned that men often paint a narrative about women. I've seen in recent time, both leading political organizations have sought to introduce more female candidates, or even include them in the various aspects of leadership once elected, or even in opposition. But what is it that men are saying that's still giving a different spin on what they outwardly are showing, but behind the scenes are not following through with?
Let me take this one. Having a voice at the table and being listened to at the table are two entirely different things. And I think right now what we're seeing is a box ticking exercise. Look, we have female voices around the table. The question that we really need to ask is, okay, they're talking at the table, but are you listening to what they are saying? Because I suspect that there's a gap at that point, that women are at the table, they have voices, but those aren't the voices that are being listened to.
How does a woman make herself more appealing, more authoritative, yet maintain that feminine edge and strength that helps her be seen and heard and recognized? Because if you look at many of our female leaders, particularly where you both dwell in politics, many of them are not as impressive as they need to be. Many of them don't come across as being knowledgeable and well versed in various areas that they should. Therefore, they're easily dismissed.
I think one of the things that happens is we have to be our authentic selves. I have to be Michaela, and Heather has to be Heather. And when you get into politics, there are so many different views as to who you should be and what you should do and what you should look like, that you start to lose yourself in a sense. And if you lose yourself, you also lose your confidence, because the reality is you are in the room because you're supposed to be in that room, that you have the skills to be in that room, and that we need to stop listening to those external voices and listen to our own voice. And that's how that confidence comes. There's a saying, boats leak because water comes in, right? So if you keep your boat strong and don't let those external forces come in, you then become a stronger leader, because you are supposed to be in that room. You are supposed to be at that table.
Just to add what Michael is saying, there's no correct formula, Shanique. We have to be honest. We don't put this on the men. We never tell a man, you have to be this particular way when they're coming into politics. No. You have to look this way. You don't even have to have a BGCSE to be a male candidate. But when we're female candidates, we have to go to college, we have to get a bachelor's degree, we have to get a master's degree. We need to have 10 years of experience in a particular field. We need to work and we need to earn our bones in various political parties, whereas a man just could show up and they'll just roll the carpet out for him. The thing is, what we're asking for is, I would tell any female that's interested in politics, just be you.
Yes.
God is giving you a gift and a mission. And if you listen to what people are trying to craft you into, and this is how not just women and even men become lost in themselves when they become a part of politics, because they forget about why they ventured into it, and they start shaping themselves into something that they don't recognize. So I'd say be unique for self, create a platform for yourself, and understand your mission, what you want to do, what do you want to impart on the Bahamian people, how you want to help the Bahamian people. That needs to be the main focus, not just a token position to say, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 women candidates, okay, that's enough. And let's be honest, in the past, that's what's been happening. It's a quota. I don't want female candidates just to be a quota to be filled. What we need to look at is the most best talented people for the position.
Yes. I agree with you, and not just to try and fill a quota, as you said, or to give, push somebody forward because they are female. No. I think a woman, like a man, must be deserving and must earn it.
Yes.
I want you both to speak as leaders in this nation, leaders in your political organization, and when you talk about accelerate action and how Bahamian women are showing up, especially in the social media space,
how does that detract from what it is you're working so hard to build and to position us in this country to be seen and viewed as?
I think I'll go first. I think it's about providing real support to particularly women interested in frontline politics. I think that's one of the key things that we see happening right now, and just having that support can take you even further, and being very deliberate about that support, such as making sure that women are having media opportunities so that they can get the experience of being interviewed by a fantastic journalist like yourself, or even going on the radio or speaking at meetings. We've been very deliberate about exposing and preparing women who are interested in politics so that they can see what it is really about, and decide whether they are comfortable with it.
And how about that exposure or overexposure for the Bahamian woman that detracts from what it is, the work that you all have been doing? You all have been now for several months speaking out on many number of issues, much of which have made headlines. And so the thing is, though, it detracts when you see on social media many of our behaviors, the things that we do as Bahamian women that are not complementary, that are pulling away from what Michaela Ellis or Heather McDonald work so hard to achieve and show us as. How do you address that this year and moving forward?
I think it's all about messaging, yes. Shanique, because the social media is an advantage and it could be a disadvantage, because once something is out there, we can't control the response. But one thing we can control is the message. And this is something that we've been constantly doing. You saw our leader, he's been doing a phenomenal job with staying ahead of certain policies, not afraid to answer the tough questions, but not just answer the tough questions, but also to ask the tough questions that make a lot of people uncomfortable. And it's all about getting the message out there. It may take a while for certain people to catch on, but they're going to start seeing it, and their eyes are going to be open, and they're going to be awakened, and they'll see the light. I don't mean to be a little, obvious because torch, but they're going to see the light eventually. But what we need to do is we need to not stop talking. Mm-hmm. We can't be silent. We have to keep on talking. We have to keep on pressing. When we see information out there, we have to share it. When it's on social media, let's share the positive things rather than the negative things. Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing. We can get really distracted on social media, because whenever we see something negative, like I'm completely against attacking any other female politician. I don't care what party you're a part of and your affiliation, because I understand how hard it is for a woman to get where we are. Mm-hmm. I do not condone that. And I'm never going to share something against another woman. Mm-hmm. So what we need to do is we need to start sharing the positive things, and we need to start supporting each other as women. As we celebrate International Women's Day, we need to embrace each other rather than tearing each other down. And I think that's the core thing, and that's how we can suppress a lot of the negativities of social media.
That is amazing. I've and I continue to kind of pull together a first-time voter panel to hear what their thoughts are. I will ask you ladies each to speak to that female that will be a first-time voter in 2026, so that she realizes her worth, her significance, and also her role in positioning Bahamian women out front.
I think the first thing that I would say to that first-time voter is your vote matters. There are going to be a lot of people out there, and there's a general view that, oh, why am I going to vote? It don't matter. They don't listen. No, your vote matters, and it is extremely important. And your vote is your decision. And so look at the candidates in your area. Look at the parties. Look at what they are doing. Decide whether that is the future you want for the Bahamas. And that's how you choose to vote. Choose the future you want for the Bahamas, and who is presenting a future that aligns with how you think. But your vote matters. I think I can't say it enough, your vote matters. And we need to encourage young people, because you talk to them and they say, nobody's listening to me, my vote doesn't matter. We are listening. We are listening. We want to hear what you have to say, and you have to tell us, because if you don't tell us, we won't know. So, to our first time voters, reach out, share what you're interested in. Candidates are going to be in your area. They are going to be meeting and greeting. This is the time where everybody is friendly and you could always find your candidate. Say what it is you want to say. Let them hear you so they know what matters to you. Because when they go into the House of Assembly, they are there to represent you and your wishes. And so you have to let them know. You have to tell them what's important to you.
Heather, 10 seconds.
Well, I would say your opinion matters. So let your voice be heard. When you see the candidates coming about, get to know them, ask them the tough questions, see how they respond, follow them on social media, and vote. You have to vote, because when things are happening and laws are being passed, you want to understand that, you know what, it was because of my vote that person is representing me. And we want to be the faces of you. So make sure if you see us out there when we're on our road in red, approach us. We're welcoming you and we're ready to talk to you. So thank you so much, Shanique.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Senator Michaela Barnett Ellis, and of course Heather McDonald. I thank you both very, very much. And again, happy International Women's Day.
Happy International.
I didn't even ask y'all what y'all doing on
Women's
Saturday,
Day.
but I know y'all will be somewhere at one of the observances.
Yes.
Ladies, I thank you both very, very much. This is Beyond the Headlines. When we come back, composting right after the break.
Who are the boss for dancer?
International events and production. Alive, Bahamas Air, Everybody Wins Live, and Field of Vibes Bahamas Weekend presents
the Evolution Concert on Saturday, March 29th at Clifford Park, featuring Vibes Cartel and Friends.
Bahamas, Nassau, where you see Saturday the 29th of March.
It's one of the biggest events to hit the shores of Nassau, Bahamas.
Get ready for Addy the Teacher, the Dancehall King, aka the World Boss, Vibes Cartel.
Real bad man, no muggle in a shot.
Log into our official airline Bahamas Air for travel specials. It gets better. We're also giving away a brand new Cybertruck.
And up to $50,000 in cash and prizes at the concert. Compliments of Everybody Wins Live.
Log into our website, feelthevibesweekend.com.
For tickets, tables, skyboxes, and more info.
Visit Ticket Flair or email intlevents242@gmail.com.
WhatsApp or call 1-242-808-2369.
I remember Cartel go did it.
The space itself is 1,800 square foot. Our site wall, which is industry standard also, is 24 feet wide. You can do anything that you can possibly think of. At Frame Studio, under our theme now, Create More, we look at Frame Studio as a canvas. And any artist knows a canvas is blank, and then you create whatever you want to do. But if you believe in your vision, you believe in your idea, I say go wholeheartedly at it.
Island Luck Sportsbook is taking you to the NBA playoffs. That's right. Every $20 bet placed between February 24th and April 1st earns you an entry to win an all-expense-paid trip to an NBA playoff game. Imagine being in the stands, feeling the energy, and watching your favorite team battle for a championship. The more you bet, the more chances you have to win. So don't miss out. Place your bets now at Island Luck Sportsbook and get ready for the experience of a lifetime. Weekly drawings every Tuesday at 3 p.m. starting March 4th. Visit islandluck.com/sports for more details. Who's ready to fly off to the NBA playoffs?
So you want a space. But not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, The possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
If you enjoy watching Beyond the Headlines, take advantage of our exclusive offers with 4 15-minute interview segments at $1,200 and 20 30-second TV ads at $2,000. Contact 557-0258 or 557-0259 for more information. Go beyond with Beyond the Headlines.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Here during the break, having a chat with Nicholas Fox because he has been doing some incredible work for several years now in the Bahamas, trying to make composting sexy. Yeah, make it normalize it. And talk about just how important it is to farming, to backyard farming, to your little vegetable garden, or to large-scale farming. And we know how important food security has become and is, not just in the Bahamas, but the region. And so this discussion is quite important. You heard us talk about eggs and all that, and I guess harvesting of eggs in the first segment. So now we kind of just round it all nicely. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines, Nicholas. It's good to have you here, and I'm happy to hear more about composting.
Thank you, Shanique, for having me on. And where would you want me to begin? There's so much to cover.
It's so much to cover. You are known as the compost king.
Yes.
Where did you even gain that reputation, and what got you interested?
So I got that reputation from a couple of friends and I. We would rap every Friday in college and come home and we'd do the same thing. And one day the name just came out. Fast forward a little bit, I was pitching my business at a pitch night, and my friends introduced me as if I was some WWE superstar. And instead of saying, "This is Nicholas Fox," they said, "This is the Compost King." And that's where the name came from. Yeah, it stuck. People loved it.
Now, Nicholas, I know you in particular pay very close attention to the food security issues in the region,
Yes.
including the Bahamas. Talk about first of all, what composting is, and then how important it is to us realizing the goal of feeding ourselves, if only by 80, 90%.
80 and 90%, that's great.
I know, that's huge.
So first of all, composting is the process in which we take organic matter. So think about your food scraps, your linen, your cotton, your yard scraps. So anytime somebody comes and cuts grass or prunes trees, all of that's considered organic matter. And we're just taking it and converting it from one form to another form through the help of biology and chemistry. So composting looks like baking to me, and how I do it or how I think about it is you're getting all of this material and it rots in the garbage anyway. That's why the garbage smells so bad, because the meat and the veggie scraps, they're what we call volatile. They're not stable, they break down easily, they attract flies when they start to rot with the smells, and it makes the whole waste management situation gross. We have rats and roaches and mosquitoes, and that's just because we're not taking that organic material and converting it into soil or compost. So we take that and we mix that with our yard trimmings, like grass and leaves and wood chips, and you start to make like a dough, like a baking dough. So you have this really wet ingredient like eggs and baking, and you have this dry ingredient like flour, maybe even some wet milk, and you start to mix that and it becomes a dough, and it starts to heat up. That biological process I'm talking about, all of the little microbes and the fungi, they're existing, and it gets really hot. And what that heat does is it starts to help everything break down and sterilize the pile. Because, you know, if you throw away something, we don't touch garbage just because it's unsanitary.
Right.
We can get sick, we can get diseases. But that heat from the compost sterilizes the pile and chemically transforms it into something else. So in terms of the carbon sequestration, so keeping carbon out of the atmosphere, that locks the carbon in and it only releases heat and water. So it's way more environmentally sound as opposed to just throwing things in the landfill where.
So it seems as though we all need to like maybe dispose of our waste a little differently.
Oh yes.
Like because a lot of it, as you're describing, can be used as compost. Like because a lot of people, and I know you've seen this, there's a huge uptick now in people interested in growing their own food.
Yes.
You were saying, because I heard you talk about linen and cotton and eggs, or eggshells, and
all of it,
and scrapings from vegetables and fruits and whatever. Like these can be put together and just placed there.
So, yes, you essentially put it all together. How the model works is I would give you a bucket, and you would place the food scraps in the bucket, and I would pick it up, and then I would transport all of that to one location where yard waste is coming in, and we start to devise a recipe. So a lot of the same terminology, the cooking terminology, applies in compost. Just to give you a little bit more context, if you didn't have to throw your food scraps in the same garbage bin, you wouldn't have to throw away your garbage as often, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks at a time, because you don't have that rotting food in there. About 30 to 40% of our food of our garbage is food waste. So we're just throwing so much away.
Yeah.
When you look at the stats, I believe in 2022 it was said that we spend $1 billion on food imports.
Yes.
And if 40% of our food waste goes to the landfill, that's $400 million we throw away just by not eating.
Then how does the compost, as you described it, which we say, it's garbage, throw it away.
Yeah.
How does that enrich the soil and by extension the food that we grow?
So a lot of traditional agriculture is done with maybe chemical fertilizers. That's like if you were to just eat and drink Ensure and Nutriment your entire life. It's not a complete nutrient profile for the plant. The plants need a lot of interactions with the soil and the microbes, the bacteria and the fungi, and that's what compost provides. It provides that environment, that community for the plants to interact with and get what they need, because without it, you just have dirt, and when it's dirt, it's dead.
You know, Nicholas, this is hugely important because while we want to ensure food security, we want the health of it all as well.
Yes.
So that we benefit, our bodies benefit. I know that you're widely known, and many people obviously maybe contact you, but how are you further educating people, the average person, the people who are now more interested in backyard farming or farming on any level nowadays, to be able to include this part of fertilizing? I didn't even know it was like a form of fertilization for soil, fertilizing their
backyards.
Their
and their
backyards,
interests,
yeah.
really. Right now, I've been talking to several schools. I had the great fortune to speak to a number of teachers in the public school system who teach agriculture and just share this idea of school composting. So I'm beginning to partner with some schools in devising a system in where we can start separating waste and training the students to separate waste, because they can understand the importance of a circular economy, a circular system, and understand that what they learn about mushrooms and decomposition isn't just in the textbook, but it happens right in front of them every day. So,
like the cycle of life being experienced right there in the soil, and then of course you plant something, then the harvesting of it all, and then knowing that it's even that much better because of you involved composting.
It's a real profound thing. I've grown a few things from my garden. I'm not a gardener by any stretch of the imagination. I'm a composter, but the compost knows what it's doing, and the care and diligence and the excitement you see when you nurture something and you take your time to help it grow, and then you get to experience that reward, is not only more nutritious, but it's more fulfilling. So maybe you grow tomatoes and you put the tomato on a sandwich or whatever have you, and you just know that in your mind you helped to facilitate that. You connected with the earth to make that thing a possibility. So,
it's rewarding. It sounds rewarding and quite fulfilling. Let's talk about the issue, as I mentioned before, the fact that in the last CARICOM meeting, food security was raised, and that this region is vulnerable when it comes to food security. I guess growing food can be even cheaper if we all on a larger scale adopt this method of growing our food.
Yes, 100%. The whole waste management system would need a perspective shift. I wouldn't call it a restructuring because the infrastructure is there. There are so many people and so many models that utilize community efforts where you are still profiting, you're still getting something back, and you're saving money not only on imports, but you're saving money on maybe getting more cleaning supplies or pest control because you don't have to spend the money to put a Band-Aid on a problem. You're creating a solution, and that's always a lot more economically sound than just trying to react to a problem.
That's really awesome and needful, very, very needful. I'd love to have you back some more.
Thank you.
Especially if you're launching some sort of campaign, like let's get it out there. Because the more we know and armed with information like this is so much better for all of us. By the way, how can people contact you?
So people can reach out to me through WhatsApp. That's either 455-6858. That's my business line.
Right here.
Okay. Or we can hit me up on Instagram, DA Compost King. You can go to my website, soulandsoilcomposting.com. And Facebook as well is also Soul and Soil or Nicholas Fox. So just reach out to me online, email me, and let's talk about compost.
A very, very important topic.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you for hanging out this evening and sharing this information with the Bahamian people.
Thank you, Shanique. I really appreciate the opportunity. Let's get composting.
Let's get composting. I love that. Let's get composting, y'all. I want to thank all of my guests this evening. At the top of tonight's show, Senator Barry Griffin and Kerry Howells, who joined me to talk about eggs and the quality and safety of the eggs. You know, it's been a big topic all week. And then, of course, in the second segment, we had Senator Michaela Ellis Barnett and Heather McDonald. Speaking of International Women's Day, thank you both very much. And of course, Nicholas Fox here speaking of composting. Thank you as well, Nicholas. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in this evening. We certainly enjoyed having you along and look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.